Hello, hello! Today I will be featuring a battleship that has been requested repeatedly on my channel, and that is the US Tier 7 battleship, the Colorado. Now, the Colorado has often been considered quite a weak battleship, and honestly, you can kind of understand why. In the past, it was even worse, but it's been buffed significantly since then. But even today, it's considered, but many consider it extremely bad. And the reason mostly is because you go down from the fantastic New Mexico, you go down to the Colorado, and while you gain a significant amount of caliber size, in turn you lose the 12 barrels and you replace them with 8. And it can be quite a jarring change, especially because your speed remains just as sluggish, whereas many other ships start gaining more and more speed, you are still stuck with your very sluggish speed. And there are of course situations like this, and I chose this game because I'm against T6 to T8, which is a pretty common bracket. Well, honestly, not that common these days. You tend to end up against T5s and T6s quite a lot. You tend to have pretty favorable matchmaking. But I chose one of the worst case scenarios, basically. Now, one of the issues, of course, when you end up against T8s is that your very slow speed makes it quite hard to remain central. And it's kind of like you're balancing on a knife edge when you play the Colorado, because you want to be, your dispersion isn't very good, so you want to be close enough to enemy ships that you can hit them reliably. But at the same time, if you misposition yourself and you end up being focused, and you have pushed fairly deep, you have a very hard time at disengaging because the ship is so slow. In fact, even though I played this in the ranked season, was it ranked season 3, where you could use tier 7s, I did play this to rank 1, and I quite enjoyed it in the ranked season. In random battles where there's more of a mess and more this, there's less helping teammates out if they get focused, there's no DD to smoke you out, and similar situations, the Nagato I consider to be significantly stronger in random battles. In ranked, I consider them fairly equal. The tankiness and the additional healing power of the Colorado offsets the Nagato's strengths, but in random battles, just the speed of the Nagato in general is significantly stronger. I'm a bit surprised here. The Sims and the Tashkent both went into the cap together, and then the Tashkent speed boosted out of there and abandoned his body, which was a bit awkward. I feel sorry for this DD who basically got baited by this Tashkent. But the biggest issue, of course, with the Colorado is finding the perfect balance between aggression and survival. It's significantly easier in higher tier battleships because you're faster, or in the IGN battleships because you're faster, you have better accuracy. But in a brawling type battleship, especially against higher tiers, it is quite difficult. Now, I have a fair amount of experience, but I still probably play the ship quite over aggressively at times. Like, even I find myself in situations where I'm just simply out of position because I played too aggressively. But that's always been my style, and that's how I enjoy it. I don't get too annoyed by it because it's something I kind of expect, that, or it's a risk I'm willing to take. And that's something I feel you need to really, that's a philosophy you really need to accept as a Colorado player. Yes, there are times when you push in that you will simply be abandoned by your teammates, and you will get completely screwed. It happens. There's not much you can do about it. Just accept it. And rather than try to completely avoid these situations by playing super safe, just accept that these situations will happen and still continue to play aggressively. You will have a better playing experience in the ship than if you try to play it safe and you sit far back, and you don't really end up hitting much because your dispersion is so bad and you have so few guns, and then if the battle moves away, you don't really have the speed to catch up and so forth. So rather, in my opinion, take the risk. It's a bit of a calculated risk, but still it is a risk, but I still recommend taking it because I feel you will have more fun playing the ship if you play it like that. Now, the ship, of course, itself is very maneuverable. It's slow, but it turns pretty much on a dime. It's got pretty great anti-air. It's extremely tanky. It's got a fairly hard citadel to hit. I mean, you are unlikely to get citadel unless you're absolutely point blank giving broadside, and even then, citadel in this ship can be quite hard, unless we're talking higher tiers wrecking you, but in that case it doesn't really matter what ship you are. So in this case I'm pushing right into the cap, because, well, we kind of need to secure the cap. We're down a ship, and I want to secure this cap. There's turrets pushing in behind me, so a lot of stuff going on around me. So I'm just going to keep pushing because I want to remain central. I want to remain in a position where I can shoot at all opponents. I know there's a Nagata about to come around this corner. I know there's a Sim somewhere around here as well, so I'm keeping my guns aimed this way. The Tashkent smoke is fairly useful. Oh, hello. Now, even though you give up a lot to get the Colorado in terms of amount of guns from the New Mexico, what you do gain is caliber size. And trust me, these guns, they hit hard. When you get those good volleys in with these guns, you pack a mean punch. As that 32,000 damage volley on the Nagata just showed. The damage on these guns is nuts. But of course the issue is you need to land them and you have a significant reload. But that's pretty much with all battleships. And I feel like this is a bit of a warm-up for the North Carolina getting used to it. But even though people tend to dislike this ship heavily, I still think they are underestimating its sheer power. That was the Nagata deleted. That was 2 volleys to kill him because he gave me broadside, which is something you cannot do to a Colorado. It doesn't really matter what ship you are. If you give this guy broadside, you're gonna eat a whole lot of damage. That includes higher tiers. That includes T9 battleships. If they give you broadside, they will eat a lot of damage. Setting my secondaries on these Sims. What you saw there, by the way, you saw how my camera switched. When you zoomed in like this, if you press C, you can shift between your front and your back turrets. So you can switch your view based on the turret's point of view, and that makes it easier to land some of these shots. Of course, once I've finished with the Sims, I'm going to focus on the turrets, keeping myself angled, of course, and moving away since it's obviously torping me. The lander looks, well, he's got to be going in for a torp run here. This is what I talked about, the turn radius and the turn speed on this thing. You can turn very, very quickly to avoid these torps. And not many battleships would have been able to completely dodge those torps the way I did. Looks like the lander is going for the torp run. I'm going to see if I can help him a bit here. Oh, there was no need for that. Lander completely deleted him. Of course, there's still a Sims in the smoke. Seeing as he hasn't escaped, I'm just going to park myself close to him. I'm asking if he's got Hydra for this guy. There's a Cyclone that has hit. Okay, his Hydra is off. Then we just gotta wait. But that's not really an issue since we are capping. We are still down ships though. They have 8 ships against our, what, 6 ships? Damn, we're actually down 2 ships. But I like the position I'm in. I'm in once again, easily. That's one of the really good strengths about this ship. That's why I dare to push in against all these torpedo ships with this thing, is the turn rate and the turn radius. You really can dodge all of the things that not many other battleships can get away with. And that's definitely one of the strengths. And that's why I always consider these ships brawlers. The New Mexico, the New York, and the Colorado. They are brawling ships. They excel the closer you get to the target. That's the way where they get stronger. And that's where I always try to get. I try to get us pretty much point blank with the ship. Of course, now that Sims has used torps, I have no fear pushing in. My proximity spotting is 2 km, so I will be spotting him very, very soon. You can see I'm 2.13 away, and there we go. Proximity spotting spots him, instantly deleting with my guns. Easy. Now, of course, gotta make the long trek of turning around and defending B. The enemy still has a ship advantage, but we do have the point advantage, and if you can defend B, they should be able to squeeze out a victory out of this. Something worth mentioning is the heal on the Colorado is actually a bit special. It is the only ship heal that heals 65% of hull and structure damage, whereas the Warspite heal heals 60% of hull and structure damage, and normal battleship heals are 50%. So it's a bit of a special heal that it heals additionally much, and that's kind of the compensation you get for having, for not having nearly as much HP as other T7 battleships have, and that's kind of the thing you get in advance. So that's why when people complain, wow, the Colorado has less HP than the New Mexico, they're not really telling the whole story there, because while yes, it has less HP on the board, the actual effective HP, meaning the amount of HP you can heal back and then take in form of damage, is significantly higher on the Colorado because of this advantage in healing power. That's also why you kind of really want to be in there. You want to be taking damage, burning heals, taking more damage, burning more heals. pretty much, if I burn through all my heals in a Colorado game, then I consider it a pretty fantastic game, because then I know I've been really in there in the battle the entire time. In this case, of course, the damage I've taken hasn't really been easily healable one. I've been taking stuff like torpedo damage, which, of course, the heavier the damage, the less you heal of it. Citadel damage, you heal very, very little on a battleship. Was it like 20 or 10% you heal Citadel damage? Heavy damage, I think you healed only half of. But, for example, light damage, aka flooding and fire damage, you heal 100% of. So, when people spam me with HE and such in the Colorado, I just laugh. Because that's something you are going to heal all of it back without any issues. Now let's see, they have a Fubuki, a Scharnhorst, and a Fuso at least at this cap. That's what I can see on the minimap. Trying to push in together to help these guys. A fire gets stopped in the smoke, he's smoke firing on them, but I'm just gonna charge in because, as I said earlier, the closer I get to the enemy, the more comfortable I feel in this ship. In fact, the closer I get, the more I feel the battle is going in my favor in this ship. Because this ship can take the hits, and this ship can deal a lot of damage. The issue is just making that damage land, which can be harder than expected at times, especially if you try to make any sort of long-range tricks or tactics with this thing. Let's see, there's a Scharnhorst here, already pointing my guns, whereas predict there it is. Did I get it off? I want to slip past this guy. Well, not really that good of a hit, only 3 proper penetrations. But I'm gonna keep charging in here. Because as I said, I want to be tanking some damage. I want to be taking these hits. Instead of this squishy Leander and this squishy Farragut who are like trying to survive here and taking the hits, I want to be the guy in there who's taking all that damage and healing it up. Because, well, that's what you're supposed to be doing in a battleship. If, in this situation, if you hide in the smoke and you see a Leander taking the hits, well, then you realize you're really potatoing the situation hard. Ah, damn it. I didn't expect that island to block my front guns. You saw I used the C trick again, where I switched the viewpoint between different turrets. That's something you should get used to using quite often. Oh, Fubuki spotted. Instantly call target on him, hoping my team will focus him. The Fubuki is, of course, the biggest threat here, in my opinion. I don't have issues angling against the rest of these. And a great salvo by the Tirpitz finishes him. And Fubuki gives me... Fuso gives me broadside. You can, of course, overmatch Fuso armor quite easily from the front in this ship. Only 12k. I actually only hit three shells, which is a bit unfortunate. He did angle in, which was of course smart. I'm not really bothering about the Gneiser now. I expect him to die very soon, so I'm just going to focus fully on this Fuso. The Scharnhorst has slipped behind the cliff, which is perfect for me, because then it's pretty much 1 versus 1 between me and this guy. And this type of fight I very much favor in my favor. Well, I expect to win. Wow, okay, or I can have... I actually overpenned him twice. Or I can have the type of battleship RNG you sometimes get, which can be quite frustrating. This guy's actually holding his fire there we go. Bounced most of it. He got very little actual damage. But I should be... if I don't get citadels now, this is starting to get a bit ridiculous. Fuso has a fairly large citadel. I'm aiming at the waterline. Trying to land it right underneath the... Wow. Not a single... I mean, I did 18,000 damage, which shows, of course, the power of the guns, but I expected one-shot him there. So that's a bit awkward. Because now I'm not angled as well, and it shows he deals 15k right back at me. That was pretty unfortunate. I'm actually surprised I didn't citadel the Fuso, because the Fuso is not a particularly hard battleship to citadel. Although you tend to actually citadel it easier from range, because the plunging fire tends to make life easier. Okay. I'm literally asking where are my citadels at this point. He's gonna get one more volley off and this is gonna hurt. God damn it. But once again, you see how much I can heal. How much of the damage I've taken, how much I can heal. That's literally what, a quarter of my HP that I can recover back on that bar. So that's why taking damage, I don't really mind it. It's not a big deal. I'm a bit annoyed that Fuso got so much damage off on me because he didn't really play that particularly well. He gave me a complete full perfect broadside volley at one point and I couldn't capitalize on it on getting the citadels, but that happens. If you played enough Battleship, you know that RNG is RNG, and sometimes it favors you with those awesome double, triple citadels at long range, and sometimes, well, it just screws you over, and that's exactly what happened there. Okay, the Tango spotted T8 cruiser, but of course these huge guns that you got on the Colorado, it doesn't matter if it's a T8, T9 or even T10 cruiser, they don't want to be giving you any sort of broadside, and even angled they will struggle against your guns because these guns hurt, and they hurt a lot. Of course I charge right in, because once again, as I said before, I don't really fear the torpedoes too much in the ship. Yes, I expect him to be torping, but I don't fear them too much. And he's still giving me broadside, which is, of course, a citadel. There comes his torps, but once again, not too scared. I will easily turn away from them. And of course, you can see my heal ticking now and just how much HP I'm recovering. And I keep pushing in. Nuremberg, of course, extremely squishy cruiser. And honestly, I don't think he can angle against me in any way to avoid the damage that these massive guns are gonna pump out. At this point, I'm just waiting for him to come around the corner. He's turning away. It looks like he is angling heavily. Yeah, he's angling away from me. But yeah, try to angle against these shells. Good luck with that. That's the first citadel. And that's the second citadel, and that's him deleted. So, you saw how aggressively I still played that game. I pushed into C, and then I pushed into B, and then I pushed back into C. I got a nice chunk, I think it was my first win of the day, 153k damage, which isn't that much compared to, for example, my Nagato high-scoring games. But then again, I do ultimately consider the Nagato better in random battles. But that does, of course, not mean that this is a weak ship. The Colorado is by no means a weak ship. It's just significantly more situational than the Nagato is. The Nagato gets away with a lot more than the Colorado does, which ultimately makes the Nagato a better random battle ship in my opinion. But still, the Colorado does have its strengths, and if you underestimate the Colorado, you will probably be punished quite hard. Oh, one more thing I should show you before I go to my build. I figured I'd show you real quick a comparison, since I've actually played both these battleships on my alt account, aka El Gringo, and I should show you my random battle stats in these two. Of course, well, win rate doesn't really matter. I mean, we're talking about sample size of 26 battles on one and 22 on the other, so the win rate matters very little. But what is interesting in my opinion is the huge difference in average damage. You can see, this is what I meant when I say that I consider the Nagato significantly better in random battles, and that's of course the Colorado. With the Colorado I managed to score about 86,000 average damage, whereas with the Nagato I managed to score 106,000 average damage. So definitively a significant difference. Also a bit more average XP of course, but the biggest difference is definitively the damage, and scoring almost 20% more damage in the same tier battleship definitively strongly supports my claim about just how much stronger the Nagato is in random battles. Anyway, let's move on to my build. Right, as usual, I will start with the modules. Now, the hull module does offer some significant advantages. It gives you a nice chunk of anti-air, it gives you rudder shift, very little HP, slightly buffs your guns. So ultimately, I mean, it's a bit of a close shave here between the B hull and the speed upgrade, because both are great, but honestly I do think you need the hull upgrade. Get the B hull first, then get the speed, because the speed upgrade is massive and you really you crave speed in this ship. Follow it up by getting the range upgrade before finally getting the C upgrade. There's no reason to skip the C hull, because it actually gives you a significant amount of anti-air and turns you into a real AA fortress, so it will make the grind to North Carolina much more comfortable. Consumable wise, normal catapult fighter, but I do recommend the premium repair and premium heal. Upgrade wise, main armaments mod 1, artillery plotting room, you'll be using that until North Carolina, where you'll switch to AA. Damage control and 1 and 2, because in my opinion you don't need the rudder shift, because well, you saw how easily I could still dodge things with the default rudder shift, or well, C hull rudder shift or B hull, since they don't really change. Captain perks wise, Basics of survivability, reduced at fire and flooding, expert marksman, and here there's some options, superintendent or vigilance. You can get either, you can get both. Personally, I would recommend getting superintendent first and AFT second, then go for stealth, and then get vigilance with the last 3 points. But if you don't mind respecking, then you can go straight for both of them. And anyway, that was my showing off just how much anti-air you can get from that when you buff up the AA. And that was my Colorado guy. I hope you guys enjoyed it.